Good afternoon, readers. It's Tilly here from Tilly's Shelf, and like a lot of people on BookTube, I'm really looking forward to next month. So next month is Victober. It's a month-long read-along of Victorian literature that is hosted by Kate, Katie, Marissa, Petra and Roz. The group read is going to be The Way We Live Now by Anthony Trollope, and there is an amazing Discord group with everyone kind of talking about what their reading plans are and what they might be using to fit all of the different challenges. And this video is my kind of my nod to that, I suppose. And the issue that I'm having is that I own so many Victorian classics that I haven't read and I really can't buy anymore. So people are talking about these amazing books that they're finding, like rare and unusual and interesting books, and I'm like, that's great, but I can't get them yet because I've got to get through this massive backlog that I have. So yeah, this video is basically me just running down the massive piles that I have, what I might use for some of the different challenges, and it's a plea to the hosts, really. Like, next year's Victober, I know you have interesting and good and unusual ideas about what to use for the group read and what to use for the challenges, but please set a challenge or a group read that's going to enable me to read some of the books I already own. You know, just consider it as an option. So I'm dividing this into a couple of different categories. There are two authors that I know that I like, but I somehow just have way more of their books than I've actually read. There's a book that I have been carrying with me for a very long time. Then there's a couple of books that I have started but never finished. And then there's some Victorian poetry, which I do love. So the first author that I own too many books by is Charles Dickens. And I love everything that I've read by Charles Dickens. I've generally enjoyed all of his works, but I own 12 books by him that I haven't read, and when I say 12, some of these have got 2 books inside them, and the reason for that is this. So I have got 8 books from this set, and this belonged to my husband's grandparents, and when they passed away quite a while ago now, and when their house was being sort of cleared out, these books were divided between the grandchildren that might care about them and might like to read them. So obviously we kind of got our share of those, and I was like, oh, this is going to be fantastic. I'm going to read all of these amazing Dickens books. It's going to be great. Well, so far I think I've read Hard Times out of one of these, and other than that I haven't read any of them. So I've got here Child's History of England, Christmas Stories. I've read a couple of those, but not from this edition. Barnaby Rudge, Edwin Drood, Sketches by Boz. Yeah, so there's just loads of options. The one that I'm considering, so one thing I try and do for Victober is read a big Victorian book each year, or one thing I've been trying to do. And last year I read Bleak House. I absolutely loved it. It was one of my best books of the year last year, I think. And one of the ones that I've been really wanting to get to is Little Dorrit. So I'm just thinking maybe, it's got some of the original illustrations in here. I'm just thinking maybe whether I can do Little Dorrit this year, whether I can fit it in. I know The Way We Live Now is really big and chunky, and I feel like this is going to be really big and chunky, but Dickens is, I find, quite pacey to read. So yeah, I'm just going to see. I think it would fit with the Kate's challenge of a stranger or an outsider, because I believe Little Dorrit is I believe her dad's in prison, which kind of puts her into an outsider position in society. So I think it would fit with that. But if not, undoubtedly it would fit with Foz's challenge of class. I then have another 2 books by Dickens, which I found in a charity shop, and I ended up buying before we had the other set. And yeah, despite this being years ago, I haven't read either of them. And what I've only just realised today, preparing for this video, is that I have now got 2 copies of Martin Chuzzlewit. So I have this blue copy and I have one of those brown copies as well. So I think I should probably just either read it or pass one of them on to somebody else. So yeah, so lots and lots of Dickens, 12 different Dickens books I'm supposed to get to. The next author that I know that I like, but I have way too many books by him, is Thomas Hardy. So the reason for that is I have 2 different sets of Hardy books. One of them is these Folio Society editions. So Roz found these in a charity shop and she got them for me. There's a bit of a theme of finding books in charity shops with Victorian literature here. And they are lovely. They've got these maps of Wessex in the front, and they've got beautiful lino print illustrations. If I can... There was one just there, which are really expressive and gorgeous. So in these these like style. I have the Woodlanders and the Mayor of Casterbridge. I also have a couple that I didn't bring through because I've already read them, like the Return of the Native and Tess of the D'Urbervilles. But I also have a selection of like slightly less well-known ones. I found these in a charity shop in Leeds a while ago now, and they're books like A Pair of Blue Eyes, The Laodicean, Two on a Tower, A Group of Noble Dames. I don't think that I hear people talking about these Hardys very often, and I don't know why that is, like whether they're just not so good or are they quite short, because obviously these books look tiny, but just as a comparison, like this is the Woodlanders and this is the Woodlanders, like, so something has got to be to do with like the text size in these books. They are quite compact. I would be really interested in any recommendations that people have, like, do any of these shorter Hardy books, like including Desperate Remedies, The Well-Beloved, do they fit, are they first-person narratives, any of them, or do they have any new women in them? Because new women is the prompt that I'm going to be really struggling with if I'm trying to read from books that I already own, because I just don't currently own any new women books. And I know that Roz is going to be like, oh, there's loads of new women books on the Kindle, but I want to read the physical books. I need to get down the physical book TBR and feel less bad about all these books on my shelves. So yeah, that's all my Thomas Hardy books. And I know I really like Thomas Hardy, so it doesn't make sense that I've got this massive pile of books by him that I haven't read. I did this earlier this year, read The Trumpet Major, so I have like brought that pile down by one. So the next one is a book that I've been carrying around for a very long time. I have to feel a little bit bad about this one because I don't actually own it. So this is The Mill on the Floss by George Eliot, and I borrowed this from my parents a long time ago. I think Roz had just read it and she had said it was really good, and I think I was at university at the time and I was like, oh, I'm going to take this term and I'll read it. So lo and behold, this book has followed me to multiple different student houses, flats. I've taken it on holiday a few times and been like, I'm definitely going to get down to this. I'm going to read The Mill on the Floss. This is the day, and it's never happened. I think this would fit for Roz's theme of class. I think it also probably has a stranger or an outsider in it. It's a bit early to have a new woman. I don't know whether it might do. It's 1860, so it's a bit early for that. I'm kind of annoyed because I have read Silas Marner, so I can't count this as a new to me Victorian author, so I can't meet Marissa's challenge with it. But we shall see. I might see how I get on with Little Dorrit and see whether I have the energy to push into this one. Then I've got the two Victorian books that I've started but not finished. The first of these is On the Origin of Species by Charles Darwin, so obviously this is a non-fiction book. I bought this after visiting Down House, which was Darwin's house, and I thought, oh yeah, I'm going to read The Origin of Species, like definitely. And at the time I was really interested in biology, and I thought, well, I still am, but I thought I was going to go and maybe do some kind of biology degree, so I thought, oh, definitely this will be really easy for me to read. I found it a little bit dense. I think I've heard people say that bits of it are really entertaining, but bits of it are definitely a little bit difficult to read. And I have read like an abridged version, which I think took all of the entertaining parts of it. And now I'm just left with all the kind of like the slightly dull stuff where he's just kind of proving his point, which is great and a very important point to make, but maybe not the most exciting read. So I'm not really sure whether I'm going to finish this one or read it. Just to give you an idea of how long I've had it for, this is the ticket for the museum, and it's dated 2009, and we're now in 2023, so it's been a while. The other one that I have owned for a long time and read some of but not finished is Tales of Angria by Charlotte Bronte. So this is a bit of a misnomer because it's not just Charlotte Bronte, it's also, I think Bramwell was the main one that she collaborated with on the Angria Tales, and this is like the things that they wrote when they were children, teenagers, and even into their adult lives, which is just kind of like this fantastical world where melodramatic things happen. And I think I've read the first 3 books in this, and I would like to actually just finish the whole thing because it's really interesting to like see what ideas kind of fed into their more mature or literary works, and to just see the kind of the drama, because there's no restraint when it comes to that kind of story. It's just they can just write whatever they want because they're writing it to entertain each other and family members. They don't they're not thinking, will the general public like agree with what we're writing? So it's a bit of a freer writing style. So finally, Victorian poetry, and these kind of also fit into the theme of books that I've started but haven't finished. I would really like to one day finish the 1850 version of the Prelude by William Wordsworth. It took him forever to write, and it's taking me forever to read. I've had this book for a very long time. I've read extracts and parts, and I really love the way that he captures sort of nature and struggle and things like that. But yeah, I just can't get through to the end of it. I don't think this is going to be one for this year. And on a similar theme, Tennyson, In Memoriam AAH. I've started that several times. It's so beautiful. It's absolutely stunning. But I always stall about a quarter of the way through. And it's AHH. And this is published 1850, same as the Prelude. I think because it can be a bit too emotional, but I would like to finish it one day, but I don't think it's going to be this year. Finally, my last book on my Victorian literature TBR is this Victorian poetry annotated anthology. So this isn't one that I ever intend to read cover to cover, because it's just a selection of lots of different poets. But I think this might be where I'm going to have to find something new womany, and an author that's new to me. So that's Marissa's prompt. I also, that's the other thing, Petra's prompt, first person narrative, like did I already say, are any of the Hardys a first person narrative or something? Because I really want to meet all of the prompts, but I don't want to buy any more books. And I know I can go to the library, but the point is I want to read these. So yeah, so I'm hoping that somewhere in here I'll find something new womany. If anyone has any tips for Victorian poems that might fit that prompt, please let me know. And the great thing about this book is it contains such a range of authors. And I have actually found some really interesting Victorian authors from this book, like Amy Levy. I came across one of her poems in this book, and then looked her up and ended up reading The Romance of a Shop, which is a New Woman book. And I can recommend it if you're looking for an interesting book on that topic, although not the best reading experience, I think. So yeah, so that is all of my Victorian books that I own but haven't read yet. And I think I'm going to reduce that number by about 3 next month, being optimistic. But there's Victobers next year and the year after, I sincerely hope. So one day I might get to the point where I've read them all. And you can read, I've heard, somebody told me, you can read Victorian books when it isn't October. It's a bit of a weird concept, but it can be done. I just like participating and doing it in the group setting. So yeah, thank you very much for watching, and take care.